All Out Season 2 just ended, so we're going to be going over some of the pros, some of the cons, and some of the highlights, and mainly discuss the fact that the Brotherhood scattered. The NCR has returned. I'm going to have a zit on my head this entire video, aren't I?
Chaos is easy. Power,
more than all of human history could ever consume.
Okie dokie.
Patrolling the Mojave almost makes you wish for a nuclear winter.
We're going to go ahead and go into some of the pros that I had for this season, as there's quite a few. Some things that remain consistent and make this series a very faithful and entertaining adaptation to me, and I seldom have a problem with, are things like the set design, the music, the aesthetics and props they use in every sequence, and just the attention to detail. This stuff, to me, illustrates passion for the project and means they're in good hands right now. Despite however the narrative may make some feel, you can at least commend them for their efforts here. To get more specific, I thoroughly enjoyed some of the pre-war scenes where we got to see Cooper and everybody in this New Vegas noir type setting, with the bright lights and busy streets and flashing everywhere, especially with the juxtaposition of Wasteland New Vegas. I also thoroughly enjoyed everything we saw with Anchorage, as someone who really liked that DLC in concept, but maybe not so much aesthetically. This was the dark, war-torn Alaska I was really hoping to see. My only real question is why the only other character in this entire series to say okie dokie happened to be a Red. Is there any correlation between them and Lucy in the vaults in any way? Or did this just happen to be a coincidence following American propaganda? If that's the case, I'm surprised we haven't seen anybody else throughout the franchise also say okie dokie or even have it on a billboard. And if it has been on a billboard and I missed it, let me know down below. Either way, the reveal of the Deathclaw was definitely masterclass, and I am very excited to see more about Deathclaw's history and usage by the Enclave, as I can only assume the Enclave are responsible for what just happened. We did get more depth added to Barb's character this season and solidifications on her morally gray lineman. Despite the fact that I wish there was a few more scenes with her this season, I do like that they're still juggling the idea that she could be either or. And you might be telling yourself, she looked pretty much on Cooper's side by the end of season 2, not sure what you're talking about. But if you've been watching my videos, I personally think because of her relation to Cold Fusion and potentially the president, she is actually still playing Cooper but does actually care about him as well. It's just with how involved he was getting and actually intercepting Cold Fusion directly, she needed to make some big decisions herself. Remember, Cooper and her decided together to give the Cold Fusion to a good person like Diane Welsh / the president. During the pre-war, when they end up arriving to Vegas, there's always these small little details. This was one of the few moments I realized there was more to Diane Welsh's character, and while I thought she was going to be evil, it turns out she was just a good person, manipulated into something that was a pretty horrible experience. Genuinely, when she wanted to be freed, I actually felt pretty bad for her and figured she was there for many years. But then I realized that because Hank got there recently, she likely has only been in that predicament for a very short time. But another interesting note is when they do arrive to Vegas, you can see Hank talking to a couple of buds that we see later down the line. Cooper's storyline throughout the pre-war segments were really what sold me for his character this season, as like I said earlier, the ghoul didn't really seem to change much. Still, there is a lot of potential for his character in the next coming seasons, but I really enjoyed watching Cooper struggle with the stress of juggling the end of the world and his family dynamic. He's trying to do the right thing, going through the right means of doing so, but every time he does, things just get a little worse. Had he just provided Moldaver the cold fusion, things may have ended differently, but he truly did feel killing someone for it was the wrong way to go about things. And depending on what House ends up doing, maybe he was right. House seems like one of our best hopes against the Enclave, which I also made a video about. I do like how when he chooses not to kill House and ends up confronting him, he walks away spiraling because House calls him out for not paying attention to how crazy his life is. And it's during this spiraling that you can see him start to consume alcohol, and his very first drink is lit with an underglow of green. Also, notice the resemblance in how we're watching Cooper Howard's downfall and slowly becoming the ghoul. And while he's always been a drinker throughout the show, he's never been much of someone to abuse the substances. Still, now he's very much resembling moments we've seen of the ghoul already. Either way, having so many pre-war scenes in Vegas was honestly some of my favorite aspects. When I saw they were doing more pre-war scenes, I wasn't too eager to see where they would go. But man, the noir, the aesthetic, the culture, it was just very appetizing. Especially in contrast to the empty wasteland we see in the future. Speaking of which, despite how flat and dry and horrible the desert is and how much I may hate it, what I did like was how faithful a lot of these locations were in comparison to Vegas. Especially when it came down to Freeside and the Strip. It obviously felt a little bigger and more full in the actual show, but in regards to the games, it felt like they really tried to recreate what they could. Still, it seems the Freesiders are a lot less aggressive these days and less likely to chase you with a machete out of nowhere, but that doesn't mean they're not ready to rob a store naked and steal the shop owner's clothes. I also enjoy that Vegas has sort of become this pinpoint of power of a stronghold that everybody's after, especially with Cold Fusion powering things and allowing House to get back up to his regular old antics. I don't know, I just really appreciated the parts of New Vegas they actually adapted. And that even includes the Kings. The Kings, who a lot of people complained about who are New Vegas fans, and seem to think that because the Kings died, the entire New Vegas franchise is also dead now. In my playthrough, the Kings were never that vital to anything I did, and sorry if that does offend you, but that's just how I played it. So in my head, I think Lucy did deserve a moment where she got to show off some of her combat prowess. And while she could have just taken down a bunch of random ghouls, that wouldn't have been as satisfying as seeing her take down some ghoulified kings. But keep in mind, this is also 15 years or so after New Vegas, and not only would the ghouls have been much older than we saw before, being a bunch of old men in leather jackets, but also there still is potential chance that there are some kings still lurking around somewhere, whether it be in Freeside just hiding out in a building, whether it be somewhere outside of New Vegas, or even underneath it in the sewers. There's always potential they'll come back and cause a problem to Lucy for massacring all of their brothers the way she did. Which was another thing I enjoyed about this season, Lucy's slow evolution as a character. One of my favorite character arcs in any story is seeing a good character slowly become a bad character. And while I don't think Lucy's going to become evil by any means, I did enjoy seeing her morals get tested more and more as the season went on. Her immediately choosing to save someone else rather than Cooper, and it resulting in her immediately getting crucified, only to be freed by said guy and probably think, hey, this person, despite me betraying him, maybe actually likes me now, only to realize, nope, he was just using you as bait still. I don't know, she had a whole lot going on this season, and I won't break down everything, but I did really enjoy when she got to use a power fist. Man, imagine she puts on another power fist and dual wields them and maybe becomes a enforcer for New Vegas, or maybe they could rename New Vegas to a place like Piltover. Or I also really enjoyed her moments with her dad. This really helped solidify their bond and helped create a dynamic to their very complicated relationship. Hank never showing anger or wrath towards Lucy and is genuinely being a good dad all the way through. A good dad doing psychotic and very evil things to everybody else in the world, but seemingly caring about Lucy in what ways he can. Not a good dude, but is anybody really perfect in the wasteland? I think one character that's always been riding the black and white scale has been the character of Maximus, who in my opinion was the MVP of this entire season. Max's story as a whole is very entertaining, and in season 1 he was mainly regulated to being a reluctant soldier in the Brotherhood's army, and while I enjoy his dynamic with Quintus and future potential with the two, I really liked how the writers focused on Max's NCR origins, really allowing him to come full circle and kind of become a knight for the NCR at this point. And while I could genuinely gush about his character and his storyline through the entire video, I'm actually going to be dropping another video on his character very soon, theorizing where his narrative will go, and how the Brotherhood is going to come back into play with Liberty Prime. So keep an eye out for that. So we'll go ahead and go over some of the cons I had with Season 2. I still have a grievance with how we haven't gotten a full explanation with Barb and Janie potentially getting all the way over to Colorado when Cooper was literally with Janie as the bombs were dropping in LA. Sure, there's a lot more story they could tell with this, so that's subject to change. I just hope they didn't get in a vertibird and fly through the irradiated skies all the way over during the Great War. Another minor grievance that's definitely subjective is the desert setting. See, one thing I really enjoyed about the setting of Season 1, despite all the sand, was that it felt like a real actual environment, an environment you could walk between distances to or actually see within a game. Versus in New Vegas, they had a lot of desert scenes with some very accurate locations placed on top of them, but it just felt all very flat and uneventful, which, you know, is part of the course. But aesthetically, I definitely preferred the actual location segments of the show opposed to the actual desert segments. Weirdly enough, I did enjoy the dunes where Area 51 was located. Another small grievance I had was the constant sound effects we heard every time the control chip was on screen. Seriously, this Xbox achievement sound made every scene a little less serious for me. Another thing I didn't quite get was how the main MacGuffin for the entire show and the most powerful object we've seen so far, in cold fusion, wasn't protected by anyone at the Brotherhood. Literally, Dane walked right in there with no guards and simply took it. Another minor nitpick of mine was that Lucy actually downgraded in her attire this season. With Season 1, she had the vault suit that had almost full leather armor, and I was hoping throughout the series we'd see her upgrade her vault suit more and more. But it seems her vault suit days are over and she's let go of that part of her life. But at least we still have the cool looking power armor suits, even the NCR version of the power armor. A small problem I did have, however, was the fact that despite using practical effects, there were some segments where practical effects kinda made it look more goofy than it needed to. I feel it's always commendable to keep things realistic, but if it comes at the cost of a cohesive looking scene. Cooper and Lucy had a genuinely interesting dynamic this season, but it feels as if they walked straight from the observatory in LA to Vegas and had no conversations or anything eventful happen until they actually got there. It would have been cool to see at least one sort of camping scene or a few scenes of them just trying to survive the wasteland together. And I know they had a lot of wasteland battles and all that, but I mainly mean survival stuff like looking for loot or simply sitting down next to a fire. Or on the opposite end of that, maybe the ghoul could have became a little more good like Lucy became a little bad. Because it honestly feels like he just became a little bit less aggressive and ready to shoot or beat people he first encounters. One of the bigger issues for me this season was the entirety of Vault 33's storyline. Now, there were actually moments of Vault 32's storyline that I enjoyed, like Steph and Woody and everything happening with Chet, but in regards to Vault 33, man, this was just a chore to sit through. And I thought potentially this was supposed to be their comedic attempts at having something fill out the runtime, and hopefully it would lead to some big climactic moment by the end of the season, but it looks like we're gonna have to wait for Season 3 to see anything eventful happen with any of these vault dwellers. As of now, it got really tedious watching people who were raised in a bunker to survive the nuclear apocalypse and wasteland and somehow have the survival skills of a fish trying to tan. I was really hoping for either some FEV exposure or for the Enclave to at the very least show up and scare everybody. But the closest thing we got to a darkness involving any of these storylines was Chet sort of remembering how similar this was to his previous experience with Norm. And despite how frustrating that C-plot was, it was nowhere near as frustrating for me as a game fan as how they decided to adapt Caesar's Legion. Now, to be fair, I actually did like the aesthetics that they had, as well as the set design, and I do think Macaulay Kaiser has a lot of narrative potential in the coming future of the series. However, when it comes to the narrative and what was going on with the Legion, they came off as goofy raiders who couldn't get their crap straight. What I mean by that is, you had one of the most savage and brutal factions divided in two, and the only thing separating them was this tiny hill with Caesar's body on it. A body that was just out there ready for the grabbing, which as soon as there was chaos, Kali Kaiser did. It just seems like a very trivial situation to find themselves in for a faction that's very much about being head first and taking care of their problems with blunt force. The fact that either side would be sitting so close to each other and just sort of pretending either is in charge just really came off as more comedic to me than Caesar's Legion really should be. I'm hoping next season opens with Legion fighting the NCR and potentially winning. taking over Vegas and us being able to witness their savagery firsthand. But I also really don't understand why the fighting stopped altogether. The fact that it was a note that held whatever Kaisar wanted and everyone was just keeping each other from even so much as looking at it means to me that even if someone got the note and snuck it back over to their side and told the other side what it said, they wouldn't be likely to believe them, seeing as they literally were ready to shoot and kill people who were trying to grab it. Yet when it comes to Koli Kaisar, he walks out of the tent simply wearing his crown and everyone's like, yep, this is the guy, he's the leader now. Which leads me to believe that his side of Caesar's legion completely massacred the other side and won the battle despite all the gunfire we hear. Or simply that everybody saw him with Kaiser's crown and was like, yeah, that looks fitting, let's follow that guy. Again, this didn't ruin the show by any means, because the Legion was a very small part of it, but this is just one of the examples I feel when I say that the show leans a little more into comedy than I feel they should in certain aspects. There should be elements of this series that is very dark and dreadful and scary, and the Legion is definitely one of those aspects. Either way, when I say this was a bombastic bridge season, I don't mean it in a negative connotation. See, if the writers have faith in their story, they'll plan ahead so season 3 will be even more entertaining and not feel like a refresh with a whole new plot and a whole new setting. While season 1 had to be a bit more experimental and leave very loose threads at the end, all of season 2, despite the personal character arcs being so satisfying, had its larger threads be more of a setup this season. A setup to what looks to be a pretty exciting season 3. A season that will open with a war between the NCR and the Legion at New Vegas itself. Man, I did not expect to get to this point in the Fallout show, but I am excited to see where it could go. And I'm even more excited to see both House and the Enclave's involvement in all of this. But even more so, I have a few theory videos I have for particular characters, but I would love to make a theory video for any ideas you may have. Season 2 has set up a lot for Season 3, so there's a lot to work with. From Norman's storyline escaping with his new girlfriend, that we never saw Ronnie's dead body, so he could return and wreak some havoc for Norman. We see that Cooper is going to Colorado to find his family, but I have a theory video coming out on his character very soon as well, and I don't think things are gonna go very well for him over there. House is still alive and still gonna be lurking around in the background, as well as Hank, who definitely got his chips out into the wasteland before anyone could stop him, and I believe erased his own memories so nobody could pull any answers out of him. That is, if he isn't just faking it for Lucy. Either way, we know one of his chipped individuals is the snake oil salesman, who still has a strange past we aren't quite sure of, in the fact that he possesses what I believe is FEV to turn Thaddeus into whatever he's turning into. You have everything going on in the vaults, with the annoying inbreds in Vault 33, and Stephanie locking herself away, and Chet slowly realizing how similar this is to what he saw in Vault 32 long ago. And with the war at Vegas going down, it doesn't really matter who wins, because soon enough Liberty Prime will be marching through those walls anyway. The only person to navigate all this chaos and do so successfully would be Robert House. However, Robert House is but an AI construct at this point. What you need for all this physical chaos is a physical person who is noble, good, and I think just earned themselves a position as Knight of the NCR. But to do so, he had to first become a Knight of the Brotherhood.
Why did you join the Brotherhood?
To hurt the people who hurt me?
Now listen, it can be tough out there, but as long as we leave it a little bit better than we found it, we did okay.
Daddy! No!
You are a good boy. And one day you will be a good man.
Goodbye to you, my trusted friend.
You have ambition, don't you?
I had no place in the world, so
We've known each other since we were 9 or 10.
if I can help the Brotherhood make it better, even if it means giving my own life, I'll do it.
You have plans, but out there, you can't.
Please pray for me. I was the black sheep of the family.
What do you suppose your Brotherhood would do with infinite power? Maybe you can stop them. Maybe all you can do is try.
Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die.
Behold, the dimness of the sword.
But if our cause is righteous,
I have no need for the thoughts of a sword!
You are the best stranger that's I've ever met.
They don't choose to do the things they have to do. They just keep happening.
Stand down or be cut down.
No, Dane.
All hail Maximus! That shall be night hereafter!
it is a knight's duty to better this fallen world.